Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy. All right, welcome back, fight fans, Lights Out podcast people. Here again, Mike and Miguel, as usual, special guest. So you know what that means. This is our favorite time, the deep dive. We like to do the deep dives with real fighters, guys who've been around. This is a 50 Fight Club member, so we're loving this. We're going to go old school. People who are around back in my day. We got Toby Imada. Toby, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. Still kicking, chilling.
What I like to hear, man. Well, we got a lot of nerdy questions for you, and the king of that is Mike. Mike, why don't you take it off for us, brother?
Yeah, so Toby, I'm going to first and foremost apologize. I'm going to be taking up way more time than you would ever give somebody like myself, and I usually use my friendship with Chris in order to get in this position. And at some point, like if you've just got to like pretend like there's no connection on your phone, totally understandable. Totally understandable. So we're going to start in 1998. So you were a participant in Abu Dhabi in 98. But what I usually find is a lot of the participants from that era, you know, they've got like a lot of MMA bouts, or, you know, they're kind of known in jiu-jitsu circles, you know, in other parts of the world. But I'm not going to say you like snuck in there, but how exactly did you make your introduction to that tournament? How did you get the invite? How does that all come about? Because you fought some bigger guys in there.
Yeah, I entered the absolute. Jesus, this is kind of random. This is when I was in college. So I was just kind of walking, and I saw this Taekwondo studio. They were offering ground fighting, and I was like, what the hell are these? Who's teaching this? And I went in and checked it out, and it was a guy that I did judo with. So I was like, oh snap. So I did judo with this guy, Joe Charles, back in Tenry. And that was where I started. And he's teaching ground fighting out of this gym. So I went in, got reacquainted. And I guess while I was training with him, whoever put what was his name? I forget his name. The British guy.
Guy Nevens?
Yeah.
Guy Nevens?
And
okay.
I guess he's trying to get people for this tournament, and they went down the list of fighters, and Joe Charles was one of the people on that list. And I guess they had what they had is each person who they invited, they had them bring one of their students or something. So he had a small tournament, in-house tournament. I won it. He took me with him, and I had a lot of I told my dad about it. My dad was like, what the hell? You go over there, and like, they're going to cut your hands off and all kinds of shit like that. And I was like, oh God, man. It's like, it was kind of like a chance of a lifetime. And I said, screw it. I have to go.
Yeah.
I have to.
Now, when you say Joe Charles, you're talking about like UFC veteran Joe Charles for wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Charles.
What belt would you say you were at this point?
In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
I didn't have a belt.
Chris, it's one of your people. It's one of your people, Chris.
Okay. Now, you mean like me? I'm still a white belt, I guess, because I don't have a belt because I don't own a gi. I never have. But I mean, what about skill-wise? Would you say you were at the level of a belt, or were you still pretty green?
You got to win there.
Well, what I had was a wrestling background and the second degree in judo.
Okay.
That's what I had.
Well, that's legit.
Yeah, wrestling is key. If you got a good wrestling, if you just know how to stay out of submission with a good grappling or a good, you're going to be fine.
Well, to put it in context too, historically, in 1998, that Abu Dhabi tournament was one, and I was, in part of the media that covered the sport. That was one that a lot of the media and stuff heard about it afterwards. Like when Sperry had the results and they showed pictures of Sperry like giving a gold knife and stuff like that. There wasn't a huge amount of publicity beforehand. It doesn't surprise me to hear Toby say that maybe they had trouble filling it because Guy Neven's competed in that one, and he's not, I don't think he can hang 2 years later. You know what I mean? There were a couple of other competitors like that, and then you got lucky. You get a guy like Toby who really was a guy who was there to drink up the experience, but the matchmakers weren't nice to you.
No.
No, it didn't matter. I had no idea what I was getting into, really. I didn't know what caliber. I knew that I could handle my own because I would be able to, because I'd beat everybody up, like all the wrestlers on the team. Like I beat all of them up, even the heavyweights. I was like, okay, I knew how to do some shit. But first guy, I don't know, he's kind of a larger guy.
Was it Kareem Barkalaev? Is that who it was?
No, that was my second round.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much did you weigh at the time? How much did you weigh going into this tournament?
70.
I was like, no, man, I wasn't even 170. I was like 165.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember? So go through the first fight. Go ahead.
Give the weights of your opponents.
Man, I think that, I was at the low end of the weight class. So,
so you'd be fight guys up to 184.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So the first guy was pretty big. He would have been close to 200. And then, but I don't know. I had more experience than him, I guess. I don't know. I did good. Took him down. Hit him with a funky face-to-face triangle. And then that was cool. I'm like, oh, great. Not too bad of an experience. Mm-hmm. Second round was a totally different story with Kareem. That fucker was strong. Holy fuck. And
was he a scary guy?
The expressionless.
Yeah.
But that's what I would have expected. Man, I hit that try to get that fireman's on him, and he sprawled on me, and I was like, what the hell? And took my back, and I was kind of like blown away. I was like, holy shit. But I felt a lot better seeing that he went to the finals. So that was the end of my weight class.
Did you follow Kareem's career? Did you follow Kareem's career afterwards a little bit? Because
I did a little bit after. I saw him go back. Didn't he win it the next year?
He won it one of the subsequent years. I don't know if it was the following year or the year, the next year, but one of the years in Abu Dhabi, he won it. And he was just, like you said, he was definitely like the kind of guy who would just ghost you, walk right by, not look at you, no eye contact and stuff. But that was a scary man. That was a scary man in my book, And then it didn't get any easier in the absolute. You get into the absolute because you had a nice performance. And then you get, a Renzo Gracie black belt guy who happens to be, maybe twice your size. Why don't you go through that?
Yeah, that was interesting. I was like, holy shit. It blew my mind when I drew the biggest guy.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
unbelievable.
God.
This deck might be stacked against me. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, shit, man. I couldn't tell you what I did. I just went in there and I tried to not let him tie up with me. And somehow I ended up in side control. Mm-hmm. I had him kiss a katame for like a few seconds. And then this big old leg just kind of like came over and just reaped me. And then I don't know. He might have had me in a body triangle for minutes after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in those minutes, and he just put that choke.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, then he just kind of like, I got tired, man. He put that choke right across the bridge of my nose or the forearm, the rear naked across the front. And I was like, fuck this. I was gonna end up getting hurt.
But I can tell you this from watching that way back then, and then, I can tell you came out of that making him look bad because you gave him a lot of trouble. When he spent minutes in a body triangle, and we're told Renzo Gracie black belt, he's this gigantic guy that looks formidable, and he had won you'd been a finalist in the Russian absolutes. I mean, this was a pretty rugged dude, and he couldn't really finish it. It took him a lot of work. So to me, you came out of that looking really good, really an impressive performance.
Oh, thanks.
Did you not feel that way, or did you feel like, well, you know, he didn't run me over? Did you at least feel that?
Yeah. But I also knew, man, this guy was so big, man, that fucker could have probably done that from the very beginning.
Okay.
But I appreciate the sportsmanship and actually trying to, you know, utilize his technique.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, there's probably a few MMA bouts that aren't on your record, but the first one that we have listed is the August 2nd, 1998 Neutral Grounds 4-man tournament. Hey, did you fight prior to that, or was that your first foray into mixed martial arts?
That was my first mixed martial arts experience. Wait,
okay.
Do you remember what other fighters were in that tournament? Because the first one I did was a tournament.
So the first, I think you did 2 tournaments in a row, but you had an armbar win over Lee Cox, and then
that was my first.
And then you had a TKO loss to Jason Dallas.
Yeah, that was it. That was my first time.
Okay. That was Neutral Grounds. What was the name of that promoter? Was that Ryan?
Yeah, it was Neutral Grounds. Okay, wait. So you did a 4-man tournament. What was the prize money to win that tournament?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, did you care even back then, or was it just something like for the experience?
Mostly for the experience, because the money, it wasn't a lot of money. I think I got $100.
Nice.
Right. So you fought a bunch of future UFC and Bellator veterans. Your first one was on your 8th fight when you armbarred Jason Von Flue. What could you tell us about that fight? Do you remember it?
So that was my first fighting and no holds barred.
Okay.
So punches to the back of the head, soccer kicks to the face,
headbutts.
Like,
NHB.
So that was kind of like, oh shit, man, I can't be on the ground. I have to, like I was like, holy fuck, I gotta fucking move. Funny thing about that fight was I got him in an armbar, and he wasn't tapping yet, and the ref called it. And then I felt bad, and I was like, fuck it, let's do it again. So we fought twice.
Really?
So who was the promoter?
Oh man, the IFC.
Paul Smith.
Oh, was it Smith?
Yeah.
John Smith.
Paul.
Maybe.
Paul Smith.
Paul Smith.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I fought there once, I think.
Those guys.
Yeah. So your 9th fight, which I mean, now you're a California guy. You're living out on the West Coast. Am I correct?
I was, yes.
At this point, okay. So your 9th fight was in Davenport, Iowa. So your 8th fight's against, Von Flue, obviously went on the Ultimate Fighter and the UFC. And your next fight was in Davenport, Iowa against Adrian Serrano at an Extreme Challenge.
Veteran.
Yeah, well, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is okay. So I mean, you're sitting here, you're absorbing what I'm saying, but like to us, it's your 8th fight is against a guy that's probably got 50 fights at the time. You for sure probably weren't flown to Davenport, Iowa. Did you drive there?
No, we took a twin propeller plane.
Was this a private plane?
No, it was just one of those. It looked like an island hopper plane.
Did you buy your own ticket?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, you flew LA to Chicago, and then from Chicago you grabbed the puddle jumper to Iowa, something like that. Okay.
Wow.
I can't imagine Monty Cox fronting for an airplane ticket at that time. To me, that's mind-boggling.
Oh, we didn't get paid.
Oh,
what?
I didn't get paid for losing.
Oh, so it was like if you lose, you don't get paid. That was the deal, or they jerk you around? Okay.
No, that's what it was.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Either you win or you lose. And I was like, all right.
Hey, look at Monty with the balls that say that. Hey, if you lose, you don't get it.
If I know Monty, he was working a deal to get some of his guys out there to California shows, so he brings someone in. That's, one way to do it. So, but that's good experience you're getting at the end of the day. What'd you see on that show? Because obviously Monty is, a guy who became, kind of like an important figure in the sport with, Hughes and all those guys. Were some of those guys on that card? Do you give us a bird's eye view of that card if you remember?
I was so new in the sport, I didn't know who was who. Robbie Lawler might have been on there. I don't know.
I think that may have been the second Extreme Challenge like ever. And if you look at, it's really hard to find, but Jens Pulver lost his first amateur bout on that card.
Well,
it's like a sidekick.
I'm actually looking at it here. We had.
No,
it looks like it was a 4-man tournament. Serrano fought Imada, and Serrano then fought David Avila, or Eric Davila rather. The main event, this was a major Extreme Challenge for the time, August 21st, 99. Miletich and Shoney Carter was the main event. Jeremy Horn and Travis Fulton, Andre Roberts, Bobby Hoffman.
That's the second one.
Wow.
All right. So if you dig deep and it's not on any of the databases, you'll see that Jens Pulver lost his first amateur bout on that card. Toby, I've got like more time on my hands than is necessary. And I'm super OCD with databases and like little weird MMA facts. So I'm positive about that
cool.
one. No, not really. So your ninth fight was against Adrian Serrano. Did the amount of experience bother you at the time, or were you just? And I think you were probably outweighed as well.
Mentally, no, I don't think so. But I definitely wasn't prepared. Not to fight someone with that much experience. Man, he wore me out.
So how were you training like every day back then for this sport, or just a couple times?
No, I'll be straight up with you. The reason why I fought so heavy was because I was training whenever I could. I wasn't really trying to cut weight. I was just trying to be in shape.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so
now, at what point did you move on from Joe Charles at some point, or was he always along at this point? Because Joe is a guy, with his reputation and stuff, but like at this point, you've got like a long decorated career and stuff like that. It's like you've surpassed him. It's like, did you move on from him as a teacher? Where were you at this point?
At that point, I was training with Neutral Grounds.
Okay.
So they had that cage back there, and we would just go there and train.
Okay, and is that with Joe Pardo, and like who was some of the training partners there?
Joe Pardo, he was a bigger guy, so he trained mostly with John Marsh. I trained a little bit more with Ryan. Savant Young.
Okay.
Chris fought Savant.
Yeah, Savant. Yeah.
Okay. So
what's Ryan's last name? Is that Ryan Chenoweth or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't fight in a Neutral Grounds in Muncie, Indiana, did you? They fly you out for that one?
No.
Okay.
No.
I fought for Neutral Grounds once.
So your 10th fight, you have Stephen Heath in the IFC. You take 2 losses in a row. And sometimes at that point, fighters are kind of like hit a crossroads. Like you'd be like, maybe this isn't for me. You win your 11th fight, and then you lose your 12th fight to Dave Strasser, who obviously is another stud. Where were you at mentally during that period?
Wow, I have to think back to that. David Strasser.
Well, you got Steve Heath, who, that's an upset as far as I'm concerned. Serrano, I understand. Heath is, at that point, kind of a 500 fighter.
Yeah. Honestly, with Steve Heath, like I said, man, I wasn't really I wasn't training hard. I wasn't taking it seriously. It was more like fun.
Okay.
Go fight, go party, hang out with, and I was young. But I remember fighting Steve Heath.
So after
definitely beatable.
Yeah, then after Dave Strasser, you take an entire year off. Like there's no fights in 2001. Is that when you got serious about training? I assumed you switched camps and it made you stop fighting until they felt you were ready.
It was a breakup. Had a bad relationship, had a bad breakup, had to move back with my dad.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. 2002.
Just to put this in context, most of the fights that we've been talking about are still in the 90s. So we're still talking about last millennium, really. So we're getting to more modern stuff. Mike's taking us there, but I just want to point that out because that you did have a lot of fights in the 90s. You know what I mean? It's not like you landed one or two fights in the 90s. You put in a lot of mileage back then when it was really like show up and, you know, your opponent might have different gloves than you and, you know,
different rules everywhere.
But you know, at that point too, it's you're fighting really hard guys too. And you're leaving California to do that. So it's like you could do this at home, but with your own comforts, you know, there, but you're jumping on airplanes, you know, to fight guys with 30, 40 fights. You know, Dave Strasser being another one of those guys at that point. And then no fights 2001. In 2002, you take 4 losses. You take Joe Stevenson, Dennis Ash, Jason Miller, Antonio McGee. Every single guy I just said went either to the UFC or Bellator or real high levels of mixed martial arts. Like, were you self-managed at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You couldn't say no to a fight, could you?
I never did.
That's fantastic.
Like, ooh, a fight, let's go. I was taking them.
So now, being a California guy, did you and Joe Stevenson ever work out together after this?
No.
Never.
Yeah.
What about Antonio McGee?
That was hard. That was way out there. Dude lived like way inland. I was like in Santa Monica.
Okay.
Oh,
so even Antonio
those
McGee.
Saboba casino shows.
Oh, actually, I did train with Antonio McGee later. I knew him from, I knew Antonio McGee from Neutral Grounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2002, you have that patch like I just described before. And then you take another 3 years off from fighting. And then you return to fight Cassio Wernick in the WEC. What was the reason for that 3-year off period? Because, I mean, dude, a 50 Fight Club member to have 5 years off is like, that's mind blowing. Like, we haven't seen that up until this point.
Just trying to get my life together. had a baby. Went back to school. Yeah. And did that. And I said, fuck it. Now people are making money. So then I moved back to San Diego. I was in San Diego and I started training out with the Lions Den when they were down there for a while.
With Lions Den?
Yeah.
So did you go through that workout, the gauntlet?
Actually, what did I do? I heard, so during training for a couple guys who are going to Okinawa for a fight, I hurt one of the guys. And then they're like, okay. So then they were like, you're going to take his place. So I took his place in the fight. And I beat the other guy. And they're like, okay. Like, dude, after that, they're like, okay, that was cool. Like, you're good.
You're in. You're part of the club, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, all right, cool. So and then I was training with them, you know, met some people there. And then went on to WC. I got back in touch with them. And then I started fighting for Total Combat.
Right. That's so, Chris, Total Combat is this organization in Tijuana. And there, we had Antonio McGee on where he talked about he caught a draw at a Total Combat against a local guy. And essentially they put a gun to him after he was complaining. And they said, you're lucky you're leaving here with a draw and your life. Did you have any of those experiences in Tijuana?
No, I had a great time. I had a great time.
You went 2-0.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I grew up in Mexico, so it was cool. Like speak to them in Spanish and joke with them, and everything was great.
Okay, so like that Akbarh Areola.
Yeah.
Like generally speaking, and I mean this is just obviously I wasn't there. There's no video online. Are you one of those guys that like made sure you kind of scrub YouTube of your videos so your opponents couldn't study you?
No, I don't know who did that.
You've got no videos of yourself online.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They were up and they got taken down. I don't know who took them down. I feel like the guy I fought didn't want them up.
Yeah.
See, when you look at the opponent, Akbarh Areola, like he's doesn't have like a big record, but he's like a local person. Usually, like when somebody like on this side of the border goes to Tijuana to fight a local, there's usually like a real interesting story attached to that fight, and it has nothing to do with what took place in the ring.
Oh shit.
Were you the local guy for those fights or did they receive you as a Mexican, or were you coming in? Is that how you got on that show?
No, I was not the Mexican guy. I was the Asian guy.
Okay.
But that's okay. I didn't care. Most of the crowd that I was with was, we were all from San Diego.
So you also fought Hermes Franca on one of those cards.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, how did that fight come about?
They were looking for someone to match him up with, and nobody wanted to fight him. And I was, like I said, like I took the chance. I was like, fuck yeah. So.
Did you have a training camp for that, or was it a locker room match?
I had a better training camp. That was probably like the first time I actually had a real training camp. But when I fought Hermes, yeah, I was still pretty new. I was still getting into it.
All right, so that promoter.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you though. Things happen in fights all the time and stuff, but you had already gone 15 minutes with Jake Shields. So, were you disappointed in the performance with Hermes? Did he? What do you think?
What happened? Yeah, what happened was I was trying to hit him I had it in my head to hit him instead of watch his jiu-jitsu. I wanted to hit him. So, and then that's exactly what happened. I didn't watch his jiu-jitsu, and I got armbarred same way I armbarred a bunch of other guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's. I find it to be unusual. So, like I said, fluky things happen, but that isn't going to happen 9 out of 10 times. That you guys fight. It's not one of those things. It's so. I wanted to hear what you thought about that. Do you follow Hermes after that? Because he went on to, I think he held the UFC belt briefly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. I watched what he was doing, and I even trained with him later.
Okay.
So you've been you do the nomad thing too. It looks like you grab training with a lot of somebody you catch respect for. You get in there. And is that something you've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I learned that from judo actually, and I like doing that.
So I think the caveat to that is I think that promoter disappeared at that point, because I think that was one of the Tijuana promoters that got murdered by the cartel.
Oh, I don't know. The promoter I knew was Diana, and Eric Del Fiero was the match.
No, my fault. I'm thinking of it's Eric Del Fiero. Yeah, that's right. No. The other organization in Tijuana had that issue. It may have been the Cage of Fire?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's where you fought the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu standout. Was it Joao? Was it Cunha?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it is. You spent a lot of time in Tijuana. I was shocked at that, to be honest with you. That's
basically where they're having the shows.
Mm-hmm.
It was easy for them to have the shows there. They had established they had a like a following already. And that was fine. Like I was friends with the promoters, trusted them.
That's cool.
And once they got legal in California and started having them there.
Now, you also fought Zach Light, who later became the Bellator matchmaker. Do you think that bout may have helped the relationship in order to get yourself in with them?
I have no idea.
Like, did you deal with him as a matchmaker?
Yeah, I think he may have came out a little later, but
yeah, I think so.
He was heavily involved with Bellator.
I was at Bellator when I think the matchmaker was Manny Hernandez.
Okay.
Or maybe he was helping.
Were you at Bellator still in the Bjorn days? Or
Bjorn Rebney days. Yeah.
Or was
I was there with Bjorn.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's real old days.
Well, Zach actually was matchmaking for Bjorn towards the end of his tenure. So, and you entered the first ever Bellator. Like you were one of the participants. For the tournament, like another tournament that you entered, obviously over multiple events, where you fought Alonzo Martinez, who's also in the 50 Fight Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to bring us through that fight, like your experience with the first Bellator?
Okay, first Bellator. From what my understanding was, they were trying to pull the Latin fan base, so they wanted people of that heritage.
They did start out as a Latin show back then. Yep.
Yeah, it was on ESPN Espanol. And everybody that knew me was like, hey, you pretty much like grew up there. I'm like, yeah. So they used me. It was kind of interesting. They wanted I don't know what exactly they were doing. I thought it was weird how they interview you and like they're trying to get like a soft side out of you. So they give you all the story. They're like, oh, what do you like to cook? Like, let's film you doing this. What do you like? Tell us about yourself. Like trying to get like everybody really involved with the fighters, I guess.
So it's kind of like the Lifetime Network.
Yeah,
kind of soap opera-y. But that was I took that training camp serious, and I knew that was going to have to be like a potentially 5-6 month camp.
Wow.
Because if I win, you keep going. So I took that serious, man. I changed everything. I put everything into training. So when I went out there and fought Alonso, I'll be honest, I don't know. I've always been kind of shaky on my feet at first. I don't know why, but then we took it to the ground. The fucker kicked me once in the nose with his heel, and I was like, you son of a bitch. And then that triggered it. And yeah, I think that first fight really, I got really comfortable after that very first fight.
Would you say that's kind of like where your transition was in regards to leveling up?
Yeah.
Inside? Okay. I could see
definitely that first tournament.
Okay. So what was the backstage like back then? Was it, because you fought in later Bellators, is as like, put together as the later Bellators, or was it just kind of everyone running around still trying to figure things out?
They're trying to figure it out, to put a lot of money into it. They try to get a lot of experience in. It wasn't very bad. I thought it was pretty smoothly. The one thing that I did say I hated throughout my entire duration with them was how not on time Wayne started.
All right, that's brutal.
It was ridiculous. Like I was like they tell you to be there. You know how they tell you to be there, like be early, and then you get there, and then they make you wait later. And it's like,
hurry up and wait.
Shut the fuck up! Oh, we're going nuts.
Let me ask you this question: when you got to Bellator and you said you took it seriously and this was a next step, you're on television, like you mentioned. Was this your first time around a television production? Because you mentioned like the interviews got a little hokey and stuff. Like, does that become intrusive at that point? Like, especially the first show, it's like maybe you want to be left alone in the locker room. You don't need a nerd with a camera in your face. Any of those moments or anything like that?
No, actually, no. It wasn't really that bad.
Props to him, man, because it's tough to run a first show, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. With cameras right there, but I don't know. It wasn't too bad.
Okay, well, so tell me, what do you like to cook?
All kinds of shit, man. That's my thing. I like to cook.
Go ahead, Mike. Go.
It's like,
Miguel, you're killing me.
having a diet.
All right, let me get through this, Miguel. So Bellator 5, you fight Jorge Masvidal, where you beat him with an inverted triangle. It was submission of the year. I mean, you were all over all the MMA media for about 2 months because of that. Was that something you had worked on prior? Did it come together? What was Jorge like before the fight, after the fight? What took place there?
So that whole thing, that move, man, I learned that move when I was 15. And it just kind of stuck with me. Like I kept it. Like my problem, like I'll say, a lot of things I forgot or I let go because I was told don't mix disciplines by my wrestling coach. My wrestling coach told me, stop using that goddamn judo shit. And I'm like, dude, I can score so many points and do this. Don't use it. It doesn't fucking work. All right, fine. So, but that one I held on to. And then I started using it again. Prior to that, I actually submitted Hermes with it.
In practice? Okay.
Yeah. Even Dean Lister. Dean Lister was like, that shit doesn't work. I hit him with it. He was like, holy fuck.
How'd you do that?
And then like, yeah, so the fight with Masvidal, yeah, I knew about his background. It's not that I planned on using it, but I heard him all this talking, and this guy's gonna kick your ass, and my friends are telling me at the same time, like, oh yeah, he's gonna beat your ass. You ain't shit. I'm like, oh, okay, fuck it, keep telling me. During the fight, he didn't really act too cocky. I was expecting him to. And during that fight, man, yeah, that reach, that jab was quick, man. I remember having a fight everything was a fight. Getting on the inside was a fight. Takedowns were a fight. Everything. Trying to touch him was a fight. He wasn't giving me shit. And then, man, after the second round, for my cornerman, Shannon goes, dude, you have to bring this fight to him. You got to turn it into a brawl. And I was like, last round, I said, fuck it. Stepped to him, started trying to throw some punches, went for the takedown, got him down. And then he reshot, and I was like, no way this fucker's doing this to me right here. I was like, no way. So I just held on, took my time, locked it up, made sure everything was secure, and held on. Just kind of locked up the hips, started arching my hips. And I knew he was going to go out, and I heard my cornerman Shannon goes, it's a wrap. And I was so relieved. I was like, holy fuck. Well, that was great. Yeah, I felt really good. I felt that leveled me up too.
Now, what happened afterwards? Was there anything said between you guys afterward?
No, he was cool, man. He gave me a hug after. He's like, oh shit, man. Like, you fucking brought it to me, dude. Yeah, he was cool. He's respectable after the fight. I guess after that 3 rounds, you're kind of calm after.
Yeah.
He's given a few interviews where he actually, when asked about it, he never avoided it, dealt with it. Oh yeah, no, he got me. Where I made a mistake is I leaned into it instead of leaning back, and like he's just like, hey man, it sucks being on the receiving end of all these videos, but hey, that's the game. Like the way he handled it, it is. it's not as if like he's matured to who he is today. He was kind of always that guy. You know, I don't know about the pre-fight trash talk and things of that nature, which obviously is still going on today, but he managed that storm. Like some guys would be really embarrassed, angry, and kind of speak out, although he did talk more trash about you after that. But you know, he ate it. Like I was surprised about that.
Yeah, I would have gotten irritated, but yeah, I think that's really cool, the mature, and shows his maturity as a fighter.
Now, let me ask you, you when you said after the fight it felt really good, and that's the reason they said let's get Toby on this podcast, because I know that you walked that martial arts path, like that meant something to you. But when he goes on and become, make $1 million and stuff like that, that gets you a little bit. Do you think about it a little bit? Like, how does that affect you a little bit?
I mean, good for him. And I was older. He's a younger fighter. You know, different paths. But I mean, I feel I don't know, proud of him.
Okay, that's
like
really noble.
He's earned it. He's earned it. I get to say that I contributed to creating that monster. So
hey, there it is.
Yeah.
That's it. Toby Imada, the martial arts. Thanks, bro. That's
yeah.
I want to get out of you. Thank you, bro.
I think that helped him too. You know, as strange as that might sound, like a loss like that, I mean, it made him level up, like you were talking about. You know, you're in your Bellator 1. It's like it kind of like he found his place in the world of sports.
Yeah, absolutely. When he fought Damian Maia and not get submitted, I was way impressed.
Yeah,
I was like, hell yeah, dude. He really learned how to really learn how to fight, think during fights.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you wind up in the finals and you lost to Eddie Alvarez, obviously another future, champion, UFC champion. I was actually surprised that at the way that you lost it, at the rear naked choke.
Did he hit you first?
What was that?
I'm sorry, I don't recall the fight off the top of my head. I was thinking he might have hit you first, rung your bell a little bit and then got you.
Yeah, he definitely nailed me. I threw a knee and he nailed me. And that rocked me. I'll admit my head wasn't there. I was just reacting. I did everything you're not supposed to do, which is turn your back, or turn to your stomach. That's exactly what I did. And he sunk it in tight. He took it in quick, and he held it hard.
So
he got me when I was rocked.
Yeah,
he's another guy who turned out to be pretty good, though. So no shame, right? That starts to happen to you a lot in your career, huh?
Yeah, got to get used to that.
Okay, so talking about guys that turned out to be pretty good, you then start the season 2 of Bellator. Now, his opening opponent is Rick Krause, who he beats by armbar, I believe. Yeah, armbar. You got to hold up. Rick Krause.
James Krause.
Or James Krause. I apologize. James Krause, who UFC fame, phenomenal gym owner as well in the Missouri area. And you also had a rematch against him a little bit, I think, a little bit later in your career. But that was, to me, that was like one of your best showings. Like as a fan, like I was like, that was one of my moments where I was proud of you as a fan. Yeah, I went over James Krause.
Oh yeah. Had a great game plan on our first fight. Second fight, I don't know, something happened.
And then you've got a semifinal win over Kerry Veneer, armbar. You got 2 armbar wins, and you move into the finals. So it's your 2 tournaments, 2 finals appearances, where you have a real controversial split decision loss against Pat Curran.
Yeah.
Why did you guys never rematch?
I don't know.
Was it ever brought up in conversation?
On all honesty, after that fight, I was quite pissed. I was upset. So that kind of depression, like after you get a couple losses, that happened to me with that fight. I was upset. I was like, that wasn't right. There's no way I lost that fight. No way, no way, no way. And the only way I could have justified that, I was thinking, it's because he cut me, and that's all they took. And so,
you ever have any fights like a loss like that where you just say, you know what, I don't know if I'm doing this anymore? And I know I had a couple like that. Where you're like, man, and your initial thought is, I'm done with this sport, and then cooler heads prevail eventually. But yeah, was that one of those? Did you ever have any of those, or was that just?
No, I'm too stubborn. I'm too stubborn to have thought that. Like, I still, like, I remember my family telling me, dude, go do something else, go back to school. And I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. Yeah. Instead, I actually just kind of took time off. I didn't train, and I was thinking about what I could do. And then, how much time was I didn't do anything. I took a time, like, when did that end? That May, June, July, August. I took, like,
Mike, you got there. When was that fight?
Oh, you know what? I don't. I got
okay.
like I don't
think
have
that was like
I
May.
normally, Chris, I apologize. I normally do.
The Pat Curran final was BFC 21, June 10th, 2010. It looks like you took about 5 months off, and then you visited Fight Night in Costa Rica.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Then you guys gave me that opportunity, and I was like, all right, cool. So I went because I was going to corner Molly, and we're going to fight. We were both going to corner each other and fight. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
He did.
Yeah.
So you're talking about your fight against Ludwing?
Yeah.
Okay, in Costa Rica. So Ludwing Salazar. And does Miguel reach out to you for that? Do you have like a traditional training camp? What pulls you out of that depression after Pat Curran to get you back into the gym?
Actually, it was Costa Rica. I wasn't contacted directly for Costa Rica. My friend Molly was.
Yeah, Molly Helsel fought Reina Cordoba on that show, and that was the original fight. Toby came as their corner, and then you try to work it. In Ludwig's case, I know he sort of wanted somebody to test him. He'd fought a lot of the local competition and an international name. And obviously, the Masvidal fight had put Toby, his name up there, that, Ludwig recognized him and thought it would be a good fight for him until, it actually happened. But, on paper, Toby, he had identified Toby as the guy who wanted to fight, to try to get his position. So. And were you aware of all the stuff that happened backstage on that show? Like I felt.
I heard about it. After, like when we were outside.
What did you hear?
What happened, Miguel?
Well,
like I heard.
Go ahead, Toby.
Like,
you take it away.
Knives or guns or something, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Well, what happens is Ludwig is a bodyguard and stuff in real life too, and we normally, as just protocol for the show, we said to him and his people, dude, we got a metal detector at the show, please no guns, so they all kind of
in a country where citizens aren't allowed to have guns. But go ahead.
Right. No, you have to understand that, but they can get psychology tests and do have a carry permit in some of their cases. In Ludwig's case, he does legally carry, but he left his weapon outside, right? So the VIP room in this club was where the fighters were warming up. And unfortunately, one of the major VIPs of the club, who knows what he does, but he showed up and he wanted his room. And he didn't care the fighters were in there. And it turned out that, he did pull a gun on Ludwig and one of the other guys there, trying to get them out of the room. It got to the point where, Ludwig was sending people back to his car for his gun. And yeah, we sort of got things calmed down, and the long short of it is that Ludwig, at the very least, experienced all that and had to move and go warm up in another location because that argument was won by the VIP guys. So I to be honest with you, I think Toby, he mentioned it when he fought Masvidal and he was an older fighter. I think that was the case here. You were a lot more experienced than him. And then you add that to it. I think, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to say it was easy for you, but I do think that it turned out to be a good experience for you. And Molly's fight didn't go that way. That's what I remember.
It was a good experience. I'll say I really didn't know much about him, so I didn't know what to expect. He looked like a really strong dude. Actually, yeah. He was pretty solid. But I don't know. I feel like I loosened up pretty well. I thought I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely has a reputation in that country. He's made the news several times since that fight. Yeah, I don't know if Miguel wants to elaborate on that, but what I can do is I can go to the next fight. Which, all right, so Chris,
I could just say he was wearing a police uniform disguise, and it wasn't Halloween. We'll just leave it at that. So,
wow.
Shit.
So from there, Chris, Miguel, we always talk about heroics in fighting. Like when somebody, just is facing just grave danger and continuously puts themselves in it. And what I'm trying to talk to you guys about is your Muay Thai bout in Tokyo when you fought Buka. Was it Bencharnik? I'm going to butcher his last name. But the guy's like the Michael Jordan of Muay Thai. He's 239 wins, 24 losses, and 12 draws. And Toby, when I watched that fight, I was yelling at my TV every single time you got up, from one of the knockdowns. And then you got your throw too. You started the fight with the throw. You went at him.
Interesting story about how.
I'm going to let you talk in a minute. Go ahead. I just want to bring up from the very beginning with Ricardo Morais, and now this. You're facing that type of heroic situation all the time. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on, Miguel.
Don't run from it. Yeah, don't run from that shit. Nope. But funniest thing about that is while I was in Costa Rica still, I got an email that if I wanted to take that opportunity in Japan. And I was like, when is this? And it's like Thanksgiving. And what was the date of that, Miguel? What was the date of the Costa Rica fight?
It was November 5th.
So
it's about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, do you want to go fight in Japan? It's a tournament. Like, what the fuck? And I didn't even understand the rules. And then I asked them, when is this? And then they're like, it's this date. Fuck. Well, I'm in Costa Rica until Monday. I'll call you Tuesday. So I call on Tuesday. I looked up the rules and I was like, fuck, I got to do it. It's going to be fucking great. So yeah, 2-week training camp. And they go to Japan and it's a 1-day tournament.
Oh,
3 fights.
8-man, 1-day tournament.
Yeah.
And first guy I drew was the Japan champ, Takaki Umeno. Went 3 rounds on the 3rd round and knocked him out. Oh shit, I won.
I couldn't find that fight, dude. I couldn't find that fight anywhere. Were you losing that fight up until that point?
I said it was a really good feeling out fight.
Okay.
I didn't felt like he got a couple touches in. I was getting mine in. At the very end, I got the knockout.
What'd you knock him out with? What punch?
Combo. I don't know. It was one of those knockdowns where he gets up and he's doing the chicken dance across the ring and he falls and ref stops it.
My favorite.
So so that was cool. Unfortunately, I retired that guy. He got hurt, so that was his last fight.
Okay.
Next round, I had no idea who this guy was. I've heard of Blackout, Bamacek. I've heard of him. I've never heard of Andy Sauer.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was my draw. 30 minutes later, I'm fighting Andy Sauer.
Wow.
And I feel like his leg kick stung more than Blackout's.
That's insane. That's like, Chris, when you watch this fight with Blackout, it's even the audience was like, they were like rabid every single time he got knocked down from a leg kick. You know, he would stand back up and he'd be, wobbling, just to go get more abuse. And I think in a Blackout fight, that opening exchange, like he took advantage of your stance. And when you made your adjustments, you had already absorbed a lot of damage up until that point.
Yeah. Totally happened. But Sauer, I want to talk about that fight, man, because that guy changed me. That guy did a lot for me. His hands, I've never seen anybody punch that fast. I felt like there was a moment where he threw a combo at me and I was trying not to get hit, and I feel like, I felt dizzy. I don't even know where he hit me, but his hands were quick, man. His problem was he tied up with me.
Okay.
Every time he tied up with me in the shoot boxing rules, a throw is like counts as a knockdown.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the moment he leaned on me through the Ippon Seoi, boom, point. Or it's like shoot, and everybody's like, yay, like whoa, I'm like, dope. This is dope. So yeah, I started throwing him around. It was crazy. So first round got two shoot points. Second round, 2 shoot points. Third round, no shoot points. He made the adjustment, and I won the split decision. I had no idea what the hell, but I was like, oh my god, like I beat this guy. The guy who took my tournament, I was like, holy shit, holy fuck, you just beat this guy. You weren't supposed to beat this guy. He was supposed to fight Blackout. When the Blackout when the fight came up, they switched me. They put me in a different corner. They were like all stoked. They're like, what do you need? What do you need? And I was like, oh shit, fuck, I need a new leg.
Yeah, a couple days.
Yeah.
Some
I
rest.
went out there. He had reach. He was hard to hit. I'll say he was hard to hit. His movement was good. His timing was good. Everything was good. I got one throw on him.
The opening one. Yeah, the opening.
Yeah, I got one on him, and then
crowd went nuts.
Fucker, like I should have stepped on him. But since then, yeah, he stopped tying up with me, and God, what was it? First round, second round, I got a hold of that leg, and I was like, fuck it, flying knee bar. Didn't work.
Was it even allowed?
I wasn't really sure what the rules. What I should have done was I should have like put him in the corner and done like a toe hold or something like that. The way those rules are, like, if I'm applying a submission and I fall to the ground, it's a break. But if I'm applying a submission and he falls to the ground and I'm still on my feet, it still counts. So
Shoot box is really kooky rules.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was great. Submissions and punches and throws, just no groundwork. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. So here, earlier on, I forget exactly which fight you were talking about, but you said to yourself that you weren't that comfortable on the stand-up. That the stand-up was where you weren't there yet. Now here you come. You're in Japan fighting some of the best stand-up fighters in the world. So how Was that just confidence? Had you been working on it, or is that just you testing yourself? How do you make that leap to say, yeah, I'm good to go to fight Bukaw?
I took it as an opportunity to get better. I was motivated. And really, like, I wasn't comfortable. I just, the coach at the time told me I had to change my thing. So my stance, that was one thing. My movement was different. My movement was still very MMA-like, which is, there's a difference. Like, we don't really exchange in MMA the same way they're used to. So it makes it hard to hit. And that was working for me.
It might have thrown them off. You're not fighting like they're used to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And especially the moment I touch them where they're trying to like hold me still and I'm throwing them, then I'm taking them down. And that's what I was doing with Andy. It was like I was taking Andy down every single chance I had, whether I was getting a point or not. I was doing trips, backwards trips, foot sweeps, everything. Just trying to do that. And Bukaw, I don't know if I was just too tired. He was a rock. But then again, I already just went 6 rounds.
Wow. Well, and let's not forget, he did have, it's not how to do it. He did have a 2-week training camp, Miguel. So it's not like he didn't have time to adjust.
Right. So, the one.
He didn't exactly stay at a 4-star hotel in Costa Rica either, I can tell you.
But
stayed on the beach.
Definitely, I learned a lot from being over there in that tournament. Striking, everything.
Yeah, what I took from the fight was that, like, he kept attacking your legs, hoping to get, for you to drop your hands, and so you can come up with like a highlight reel knockout against you. And you stayed so disciplined by not falling for it. Like when I was watching, I'm like, oh man, he's setting them up. And the discipline, even though the punishment that you were taking to your legs was obviously affecting you, I think it really showed your grit. Would you not agree?
I guess it did. My whole thing was, if I can get out of this tournament without getting knocked out, that's a win. I totally could have been knocked out. That was a real thing. My hands were high. That was my goal. Don't get knocked out.
How sore were you after that?
About 2 weeks. My leg was swollen for like 2 weeks. Yeah, it was funny. It was cool little limps walking around. I was like, yeah, that's right. It's kind of, you get kind of proud after a fight and you're walking, feeling it.
How long did you stay in Japan?
I was there, I don't know, maybe just a few days, really. Maybe 5
You make
days.
it out to Roppongi? Do you go to Roppongi afterwards?
No, not that trip.
Oh.
Let me ask you. You don't have to answer this if you don't want, but what'd you get for making the finals? And how much did they pay you?
Honestly, to go, I was only supposed to get $5,000.
Okay, so it was just $5,000 flat fee.
Yeah, but then it was like, but if you win, you were supposed to get 50.
Okay, so you went, you did all that, went home with 5.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything if you get to the finals, or I don't think, but I had a good contact, so they negotiated a little bit more for me.
Okay, that's
for getting to the finals, so that was nice.
Oh, yeah,
Chris, guess what? Check it out. Another guy who made it to the finals and got nothing. Sorry,
yeah,
sorry,
that's
bro.
one of my themes too. hey, good job, a little attaboy.
Yeah,
that's what the promoter says, man. That's. But no,
I'll take care of you next time.
But I do appreciate. Did they say something like that to you next time? Did you? Because how'd that work out?
Actually, I was really lucky, man. I had a lot of people looking out for me. Ensign Inoue showed up and was like, yo, man, if these guys don't give you your money, let me know. And I was like, wow, good looking out. Yeah. But sure enough, everything worked out great.
Now, we had talked about you being the centerpiece of the 2009 submission of the year and being all over the place in regards to being on the receiving end of that. And your 44th fight was Patricky Ferrari, where you lost by a flying knee, and you were kind of, the person on the other side of all the news and highlight reels. Was it real difficult for you?
Kinda, yeah. I was kind of bummed I got hit with that shit.
He timed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was too aggressive. I kept pushing forward, and he hit it and pulled the trigger on it. All I got to say after that was, at least I wasn't out cold. I was on my feet for like a couple seconds till he hit me again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now in that tournament, you beat Josh Shockley too.
Yes, armbar.
Did you feel that was another situation where you had the experience?
Yeah. Tough guy, went after it, and yeah, I felt like my experience was what really helped me out in there. So it was a nice, smooth win. Yeah.
And in November of 2012, you were supposed to rematch James Krause, and although it got moved to January, what was the reason that bout got canceled?
I'm not sure, honestly. I really don't know what happened.
And why were they so dead set on that rematch? Like, they wouldn't give you a rematch with Pat Coran, but for some reason, James Krause, they kept pushing that.
I think it was that local show, and I felt like it was something he was trying to do, or at least they told me about it. I think he was pushing again in the UFC, and I think in the UFC told him you need one more win.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's another thing. His game plan totally changed. He was not trying to engage with me that fight. Just kind of kept nailing me with that jab.
Okay. Now, your last fight was in a shoot boxing against stud Hiryoku Takei, and it's listed as a draw, but there's absolutely no video on it whatsoever. Is that one of those hometown type decisions?
Yeah. Basically, I didn't do enough to beat him. Didn't have. Yeah, I kind of felt I was losing my edge.
Okay.
I saw it in my performance. My training camp was not what it should have been.
Where were you training at that time?
Basically, that time I was already teaching. I was in Austin. Texas. Didn't have anybody to train with out there.
So was it, you think, your performance that made you just kind of think, man, maybe this should be the end? If I'm not going to be able to perform the way I want to, I don't want to perform at all. Is that kind of what happened?
Basically, yeah, kind of. I was like, if I can't train enough the right way, I'm half-assing it again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not training hard enough, but if I can't train the way I need to prepare, and mainly just to not get hurt,
yeah,
that's a big deal. Especially now. I figured I need to just kind of focus on teaching.
So, now let me ask you, we've gone through like so many names in your career that went on UFC champions, we talked about, things like that. Does it ever bother you that the UFC never called, or did they call and it didn't work out? Like, because to me, that in your case, that doesn't matter a hill of beans. You're a UFC level fighter, no doubt, but that does mean something to some people out there when they look at it. Does that stick with you a little bit?
Somewhat. I did try to get on the UFC. They didn't like my record. Like, I didn't have a 6-0 record.
Okay.
My record was like 20-12 or something like that.
Were you trying to do tough? Is that what it was?
I think I was too risky. It was a risky fight. You know, like who wants to fight a guy that's like, oh shit, if I fight this guy, if I lose, well, they don't want to lose. But if I fight this guy and I win, it doesn't really look good on paper.
Doesn't help him as much. Yeah.
Well, you know, look at Matt Brown. You know,
Yeah.
like I thought, you know, the perfect fight for you would have been, you know, Matt Brown. But I mean, I know there's a little slight difference in weight if you're going to be fighting at 55 and he's at 70. But, you know, it's like you're the 55-pound version of Matt Brown, in my opinion.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, but no. But so how close were you? Did you talk to Joe Silva? Was there a conversation that didn't work out, or were you like in line? How'd that work?
I had a manager. I was managed by North County. North County Fight Club, or Matt Stansel.
Okay.
So I was managed by them, and they were trying. All my training partners around me were going to the UFC, WEC. You know, training partners, all of them, and it's because of the record. I had too many losses.
That's unbelievable.
But you know, if you look at your losses, like there isn't a chump on there. You know, okay, you know, we talked about Heath, and you know, he's a 500 fighter. He's a veteran. Like, obviously a winnable fight, but I don't know. Like, they gave Steve Berger a shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes there's politics there, and it can be harsh when you're on the receiving end like that. But like I said, in my book, it doesn't matter. And now you've gone on. You said you've been teaching and stuff. Why don't you take us through that transition and where you know, in terms of becoming a teacher and you know, an older fighter?
I think the biggest kind of shock to me was the realization that I was missing the same chemical high. I wasn't getting it. That whole exhausted feeling, the accomplishment. You know what I mean, Chris? You know, and you fight, and then all of a sudden you don't, and you're like, your body's like, what's happening to all these chemicals? I'm not getting them anymore. It's like, what the fuck? So kind of a dark story. So I was, you know, withdrawing from those chemicals. I hate saying it that way, but I think it's funny.
Taking an adrenaline rush.
No, you're right on the money, man. Go ahead.
It's addictive.
And my mom died.
Oh man.
That hit me hard. So then I went into a dark place, and all I did was teach, and I didn't care, and I wasn't even present, really. So and then I turned around, and I cut back on the drinking, started to come more to terms with my mom's death, and kind of was able to invest more in teaching. Now, where I was teaching at, they didn't have there wasn't really a big MMA scene. Or there was definitely a fan base. There's definitely some draw, but no one was really there. I don't know if you guys know anything about Austin. Like, it's not really a fight town.
Isn't Tony Aponte from there?
I have no idea. I heard what's his name? El Matador. What's his name?
Chris, he fought bare knuckle boxing.
Roger Huerta.
Roger Huerta.
Okay.
I heard he's from there.
Really? Man, that was weird.
I think you're right, though. Austin's a music town kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely music town.
It's interesting.
So how long were you in Austin?
7 years. Too long.
Wow.
Really? They say it's a cool place to live. Now, when you were working out with Lion's Den, what were those rooms like? Did you roll a lot with Jerry Bolander?
No, Jerry Bolander was up north, but I knew him from IFC. This is before I knew Jerry before I was in the Lions Den, and then the Lions Den in San Diego. Who was there? Vernon White.
Okay.
Vernon.
Yep.
Vernon was there. Ken was there. And some of the other.
Frank and Mo.
Mo was there.
Okay, so were you there when Oleg Tektarov would step in?
No.
We just interviewed Oleg. He's an interesting character as well.
Yeah. I met Oleg at the first Abu Dhabi.
What was your impression of him there? Because
he was a funny dude, man. He was a funny guy. He's hitting on all kinds of ladies. He was funny. I like being around him. There's a lot of cool guys. We're at that. So I met a lot of cool people.
So now you're in Tennessee. Now I want to ask you, because you got a gym set up, and it's got an interesting nickname. It's got a nickname, same nickname as one of your victims. So is that just by chance, or did that come about? Or are you trying to send a little message?
Oh no, that's by chance, man. Actually, it's a sister gym to the one in what's that?
Plug your gym, man. Go ahead, shoot.
They say that again. I can't hear you.
Plug your gym.
Plug your gym. Go ahead. Talk about your gym. Yep.
Yeah, Game Bread. It's a small little gym, small little satellite one. I'm running out here in Clarksville. Not a big MMA town either, but the only thing I got going for me is I'm the only guy out here who's ever been anywhere, done anything. Yeah.
Nice.
Been to Abu Dhabi.
Collect all that talent then. Collect it all. Start it.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's gonna take some time. It's only been a few months.
What brought you out there?
The gym, actually.
The opportunity.
Mainly, I wanted to get out of. I was ready to leave Austin. That was my first opportunity to get out of Austin. So I'm gonna be here for a while. Check out the gym going, set up, and I plan to head back west.
Well, I know you got some already people getting involved with the bare knuckle. BKFC like to have you back there whenever you guys want. We also have B2 Fight Series coming into Tennessee, putting on some fights. So anybody you want to start getting, I know you're not going to be ready for a while, but whenever you do, we'd love to have. We start amateur and go to right before UFC, Bellator, or whatever. So trying to get at all levels.
Yeah, I actually got a 145er that I'm working on right now. He's a very talented wrestler.
Nice.
Purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
So
nice. Well, we're putting on fights like every weekend, dude, somewhere.
Yeah.
Almost. So I mean, Alabama, Indiana, Kentucky, Iowa, Tennessee, wherever, man. We'll put any of your guys on you want. We'd love to get you involved.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Let's get this COVID squared away, though.
Yeah.
Toby, really fast before I let Mike wrap up. You just reminded me of another question. Earlier on in the interview, you mentioned that Chris asked you about like what level you felt at, in terms of belts and things. Like, can you you're a black belt now, right? Like how does that go over your credential again? Because I know that I'm gonna get it wrong.
So my jiu-jitsu story is kind of interesting. I never really put on the jiu-jitsu gi too often. So my formal training was in judo, Japanese, like Kodokan judo, old school. And then I started training, with the Lions Den, and that's when I got a lot better at butt locks. Now the jiu-jitsu game kind of came back into play a little bit later. I think I started putting the gi on again when I started rolling with Barrett Yoshida.
Oh, stud.
Yeah. He helped me a lot. I didn't train with him that long, but man, he definitely knew how to exploit every hole I ever had. But I got my black belt from Dean. It's real funny. My belts went from white to blue. I was a blue belt for I don't know how many years. And then after the Masvidal fight, they were like, "Here, dude, you need a brown belt." Stupid how you have a blue belt.
Yeah, purple.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And then I don't know, a little bit later, Dean gave me a black.
Oh, wow.
Dean Lister gave me a black belt. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
No. Much deserved. And that's why I wanted you to mention it. And Lister, he's a guy who's no joke. He actually went to that Abu Dhabi tournament and won the absolute. You know what I mean? I was there for that one, and I got to judge that. And that was one of the most impressive performances, you know, in that type of format that anybody'd ever seen. So for sure, you know, that's good pedigree stuff. So I appreciate that.
Yes,
Michael?
Oh, go ahead.
So do you keep in touch with Dean Lister still?
Yeah, we do. So with message talk, he sent some students from San Diego that moved to Austin to me for training.
Okay, cool. You know, one of the things that we talk to the 50 Fight Club members about is, you know, you've been around so many different events. Have you ever been ripped off by a promoter?
No, actually.
Really?
Look, that's probably another reason why I stayed fighting was I never really got done dirty.
Wow. Good for you, man.
You agreed to fight for free, but at least they told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody treated you wrong, that would have been like, you might have walked away kind of thing. It's like
yeah, that definitely that would have hurt me more, affected me more than losing a fight, for sure.
Wow. Now, have you Dean Lister, you brought him up, or you know, he was brought up in a conversation. HBO Real Sports just did a recent, you know, they filmed him recently talking about CTE and you know, psilocybin mushrooms and stuff like that. Do you have any memory issues? Like Spencer Fisher was recently in the news. You know, how are you dealing with everything? I mean, you've certainly seen your fair share of wars.
Yeah. Do I forget stuff? Yeah. What's it from? Is it from fighting? Probably. I mean, getting hit in the head that much, I'm sure does something to you. I mean, I still get hit in the head. And also, I'm kind of like since I got older, I kind of became a little bit of a stoner. So that could be another thing. I mean, it's better than drinking.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, have you ever dabbled with microdosing with psilocybin?
A little. I don't really get my hands on mushrooms a whole lot or easily, but I've done it. I've always felt, you know, I kind of like it. It does interesting things. But I've never done anything the way Dean has.
Okay, like 5-6 grams.
Yeah,
like the
never.
Heroic doses.
Nope.
Well, Toby, I may hit you up for Dean's phone number offline here so I could touch base with him again, maybe pull him on here.
Yeah.
I thought you were looking for a hookup on mushrooms.
That's what I think's really going on, man.
You think I can't? You think I can't get mushrooms without Dean Lister? Come on, guys.
Yeah, Toby, we really appreciate your time, man. You know, we really like to go through people's careers, and you know, I think we're over an hour and a half on this one. So, you know, we really,
well, really. Yeah, we could stay on a bunch longer too, because you know, I mean, we could get into real fight talk with Toby. I know, like, you know, we haven't even touched base here, and we're getting him softened up here. He's starting to talk, and they're gonna take him away from us. But yeah, that's cool.
Hey, I really appreciate your time. I'm glad people get to, you know, really get a deep look into your career, and just thank you for being here, brother.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Career highlights. What do you feel that they are? Like, what defines you in your mind?
I'm the guy. I'm the guy that can win if you count me out. Like, you know, Masvidal thing, my shoot boxing tournament. I probably had, you know, I guess that's it. Like, I'm the guy you can't count out. Yeah,
that's good.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, I concur with that definitely, and I appreciate watching. Like I said, watching you. That 98. How old were you in 98 when you fought your first fights and fought Ricardo Morais in Abu Dhabi, and the rest is history? How old?
19.
19 years old, just fresh from college and stuff like that. So we just interviewed Keith Wisniewski, who did his first fight at 15. We interviewed Aaron Riley, who did his first fight at 16 with a signed permission from his mom, you know. So you fall right in there in the teens, go because you got the chance at 19 to go halfway around the world and test yourself out. These other guys are going down the road still, you know. So definitely,
I wasn't throwing blows at that age, man. I was still too chicken.
That's okay. That's still old school stuff, man. No one can take that. You know, that's the stuff we don't want forgotten here. That's the reason for the podcast, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not a hook and shoot vet either. I mean, this is right up Jeff Osborne's alley. This type of fighter.
I did hear of hook and shoot, and I don't know. I just never got around to going out there, I guess.
Well, we got him down here at the fight night, which was, I guess, a derivative. So I was with hook and shoot for a while. So you got a little taste of it. Molly, do you still keep in touch with Molly? Molly Helser, the fighter we're talking about.
I still see her. She's over in Arizona.
Okay. She's bouncing still. It had an interesting story today, actually. But yeah, she's very, very good people. Very tough, top-notch girl fighter.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, she's tough.
Excellent, Toby. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, all right on, guys. Have a good one.
All right,
you have a good one, bud. Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.